Hey everybody, welcome to Lamb Living. My name is Holly Lamb and today I joined the Napkin Exchange Challenge. And I do this once a month with my friend Sarah from Sunflowers and DIYing. She is our host and we'll talk more about the challenge in a minute. But I decided to use this challenge to craft a jewelry box for my daughter's wedding jewelry as she prepares for her bachelorette trip and the showers and of course the wedding that's coming up. Here is Chandler proposing to her over a year ago on Mother's Day. They've been engaged for a year now and the wedding is this fall. So we've got lots to do to get ready for it. But Abril from Crafter in the Rough, she was supposed to give me my challenge in this particular month in May. We were giving each other challenges and then we used our own napkins to create these challenges. And so she wanted me to make a jewelry box. And I decided, let's do one for Hope. And so I found this at Hello Goodbye, my local thrift store. And it already looked great. And I thought it's not huge. It's perfect for wedding jewelry and to kind of focus on a particular, just a small space on a dresser somewhere or maybe in her bathroom. And it was already beautiful and I loved it. It had a little penny in it, I guess for good luck. But I decided I would go ahead and freshen it up with a little bit of that Waverly chalk paint, the color plaster, which is one of my favorites. And I put 2 coats on it. I usually do 3, but this one was already this color. It was a satin finish, and I prefer a matte finish. So I went ahead and gave it 2 coats so I'd be able to do some distressing back. The distressing was good on it, but it was a little chunky for me. I like mine a little more subtle. And so after I put the chalk paint on, I noticed that the little roses cut out had some rough spots. So we just took a nail file and I filed that down a little bit. All right, so now I'm going to use this napkin. I went ahead and separated it. And I'm going to, my decoupage medium that I'm choosing for this video is the DIY Crystal Clear Chandelier liquid patina. And so I'm going to use this one, which I have been enjoying very much. And so anytime you see that little prep bowl there, my little Pampered Chef prep bowl, that's got liquid patina in it, just the Crystal Clear Chandelier. And they say to keep it separate when you're dipping into other things, like of course, might pick up some of that chalk paint because you don't want to contaminate the whole container. And so I've just poured it into a prep bowl and that seems to work just fine and keeps it nice and fresh. And so I am simply putting the decoupage medium on and then tapping it. I have taken a clean paintbrush, just a small one, just a little artist brush, and dipped it in water to cut out my designs. I decided not to use that border. This particular napkin had a gorgeous border on it, but it was very linear. And this jewelry box, or this, I guess it's a office organizer, it already was kind of boxy looking, so you can see the edge there. So I decided I just wanted to use the floral and accent the little cutout flower there on the back of the jewelry box. And there we go. I'm just going to do the insides here. I decided if she wanted to lay, a necklace or some earrings on that main open space, I wanted it to be mainly that, off-white look, that white plaster look. Plaster reads white, but if you put it up against pure white, it's going to read a little bit ivory. And so this is my good measuring right there. I just used a popsicle stick and kind of used my thumb and cut off a little bit more. But there I go again. I used the water method where I took my little artist brush and went on around the design and then just gently pulled it apart, which is going to give you a nice kind of a really blend into that, to your piece, your piece of furniture, or in this case, this jewelry box. But now here I decided for the drawer, I wanted to do a little fussy cut and I didn't want those kind of rough edges. So I went ahead and cut that out with the scissors, and then I cut a slit in it, and I'm going to, you see that flower, I chose that one because I thought when I put it around the hardware there, it would very easily hide the seam underneath with the little hardware that hangs down, because it was kind of busy but also kind of linear. It had lines to it, and so I could match those up and you'd never see that cut that I made to go around. There we go, pretty flower. And I thought, well, you know, this is for a wedding, let's add another flower. So I go ahead and I'm just tearing it now. I'm not even using the water. And since I was doing a really small little flower, I'm going to go ahead and tear it now. So there's lots of different ways you can use napkins. This particular napkin is a really nice high quality. It had 3 plies to it, 3 layers. And so there we go. I'm using the top layer, of course. And I let it dry completely. And now I'm coming back with my nail files. And I have 2 different grits of nail files. That small one is a really, really fine grit. And this one is a larger one that I really like these. It is a coarser grit and really gets in there. And so both of those, between the 2, it was very easy to get those edges. Now, this is where it gets a little bit fussy and tedious, where I'm trying to get in all the cutouts of that rose. But I wanted just to have the design on the front, and then I go ahead and I put the napkin on the back as well. You can see as I twist it around on my little Lazy Susan, you can see how I have cut it out. Now it's on all sides, all 4 sides, and then just on those little edges that I'm sanding now. Now this is 220 grit sandpaper. And I am taking, now that it's completely dry, it's dried overnight, you can see, it's had some wrinkles. I mean, that's gonna happen, and I don't mind the wrinkles normally, but I decided I wanted it to have a little bit more of a smooth finish, and I went ahead and used that super fine grit sandpaper, and I sanded all of the napkin and really rubbed it right into that wood of this jewelry box. And now I'm just taking a wet paper towel and I'm getting out all that sanding from the napkin and the decoupage medium, and I'm getting it all nice and cleaned up. And that's just a dry brush, so I can get all the sanding out of there. And there we go. I sanded all of the decoupage, and it's so smooth and beautiful. Okay, now I couldn't leave well enough alone, so of course I had to get out my ID stamps, and I used the La Campagna stamp. I just got it in the mail from Cottle & Gun. I decided I needed this one because it has a beautiful lamb on it and so many pretty things. There was like 3 or 4 different rose patterns. So I thought about using a few of them, but I decided on just the one on this particular sheet. This set of stamps has 2 sheets of stamps. And so I'm, again, using my 220 coarse fine grit sandpaper, and I'm doing a crosshatch sanding on my new stamp there. And then I'm just going to tug that right off of there. And I'm going to use it without a thin mount. I'm going to ink up my stamp with this blue ink that I ordered from Amazon. I like these big ink pads because I like big stamps. And so it's easier to get them inked up if I have more, just a bigger ink pad. So I'm not super particular about my ink, but this is permanent ink and it is great. It dries super fast. And so I'm just making sure we're nice and loaded, but I only want it on the stamp. I don't want it on the negative space. And then I just commit. I just drop it, and that's where it's going to be. And of course I leave one hand on the stamp and the other hand is pushing, making sure that every little bit gets contact. And yes, oh, it's so satisfying. My goodness, look at that rose. It's gorgeous. Mercy. Now, it's hard to see in the video, but there are two teeny tiny little spots, one on the bottom and then one on the top, where it got a little extra. And that's where my 2 layers of chalk paint come in handy, because I'm just going to sand that right off. And it shows nothing. You can't even see it once I sand off the little extra bit of ink that got on there. And this is, of course, after it's dry. I got that off. Yay, it looks so gorgeous. That was just about 30 minutes later. I came back in with the sandpaper, and there is everything all sanded and ready for sealing. So I'm using my favorite Rust-Oleum Matte Clear spray, and I'm going to spray this. I like to spray stamps to seal them just in case. I know this is permanent ink, but just in case. I don't want anything to smear. And this matte clear is my favorite. It's just two coats of this and we're good. I know that this is going to have jewelry and whatnot on it, so I don't want anything to chip off, even though I don't mind a little bit of distressing. Now, this blue ink was great. I loved it, but it was very dark and very bright. So now that the clear coat has dried, I come back in with that same bit of sandpaper, and I'm going to sand it kind of roughly. Some places I'm going to do more, some less. And so now it looks more like my napkin. Some is dark, some is lighter, some blends in more with the plaster color. And I just love the way that sandpaper looked. So I'm going to just sweep off all of that sanding. Now it looks just like the napkin. And the napkin is sanded into the wood, and everything just is looking so pretty. So since I rubbed off some of that Rust-Oleum Matte Clear spray, I come in with my liquid patina, and I could have used Mod Podge. I could have used, whatever sealer you wanted to use and you like to use, and just put another couple coats on there just to make sure it is sealed, and it is gorgeous. But my daughter is not a big fan of silver, and since this is for her, gold it is. So here comes out the Rub and Buff. I've only ever owned 1 tube of this Rub and Buff from Hobby Lobby, and I think it will last the rest of my days, because this Rub and Buff just goes on and on forever. And so antique gold goes on the hardware there, and doesn't this look gorgeous? I just love it. Let me read from Matthew 19:4-6. At the beginning, the Creator made them male and female and said, "For this reason, a man will leave his father and mother and be united to his wife, and the two will become one flesh. So they are no longer two, but as one flesh. Therefore, what God has joined together, let no man put asunder." I just love the way this looks. And that verse always gets me. I want to thank Sarah from Sunflowers and DIYing for hosting, and Miriam from Craft with Miriam for being our co-host this month. I love this challenge, and here I've just put some of my jewelry there. We're in our guest bathroom. This used to be Hope's bathroom before she moved into her own home. I just love the way this looks, and that drawer is nice and big and has plenty of room for lots of pretty things. I left the penny in there that was in there from Hello Goodbye, my local thrift store, and I'm so thrilled that this turned out so pretty. So pretty. Be sure to check out Sarah's video. I challenged her to make a summer serving tray. Oh, and here's a little glimpse. Mama found her Mother of the Bride dress. Makes me choked up. Very exciting. Exciting days ahead. So thank you for watching, and I hope you will like and subscribe to my channel, and God bless. And from the blue house on the corner, ready to switch over from lesson plans to wedding plans.